So today we're here with Krista Cloutier, my friend and art mentor. She has such an amazing story to share, and she is doing so much amazing stuff in the world of art. She has taught thousands of artists to this day how to sell their art, and I'm gonna pass it all to her so that she can give you guys a little bit of her backstory and share away. Krista, it's all yours.
Thanks, Parisa. I didn't actually plan to talk about my backstory. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking about you guys. What can I tell you? I was an art dealer for many years. I went to art school to be an artist, and then I needed to get the real job when I got out because I had all the student loans, like a lot of artists, and I had no idea how to make money from being an artist. I knew how to make art. I knew how to think about art, talk about art. I had the beret, but that was kind of it. And so I became an art dealer, and it was just by chance. And it was also by chance that it turned out I was really good at it. And I moved up very quickly. I became an international art dealer. I sold to pretty much every major museum in the United States, to galleries all over the world. But I wasn't happy. And it took me a long time to figure that out. I mean, I was happy at first. I bought lots of little black dresses. I knew lots of famous artists. I went to lots of openings, and it was really glamorous. But then little by little, it wasn't feeding my soul. And I started to realize that I was an artist and that this lifestyle wasn't sustainable for me. So I had my midlife correction about 10 years ago, and I did it with dramatic flair. I quit my job and sold all of my possessions, and I moved to the south of France by myself, speaking not a word of French. And I'm still here. and it's been a really difficult journey, but it's been a really beautiful journey. And as I've developed as an artist, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get into your stuff, but I started to think, well, what can I do to support myself? What can I share? And I used my experiences as an art dealer to start the Working Artist Masterclass. And that's been incredible because that allows me to hang out with artists. And if there's one thing I realized, it's that artists are my people. So that's speaking about audiences, this is my audience. Talking with other artists about being an artist is my favorite thing in the world. So I have some strong philosophies about art and about being an artist. And one of them is that if you make the most beautiful piece of art in the world, but it goes in your studio or under your bed and nobody ever sees it, it's not art. And I know a lot of people will argue with me, but I'm going to stand by it. I believe that art is communication. And I think if nobody sees it, it's just paint on canvas. It has to be seen to be art. And that's why it's important. That's why we're talking today about finding an audience for your work, because you want people to see your work. And if you want to sell your work, it's even more important to narrow down on who that audience is and finding the right people to look at your art. Because the answer to who is your audience is never everybody. The more you can niche that down, the better. So I'm an artist, I'm a writer, and I'm a photographer, but I'm also a teacher. So I brought notes because today I want to teach you something, and I'm going to ask you to take notes because I really want you to learn something today. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to ask you some questions, and there's no right or wrong answer. You might not even know the answers to all these questions, but just jot things down as they come to you. And I won't start right away. I see someone's looking for their paper. Okay, here we go. So here's the first question. Think about this. Who has supported your work in the past? And tell me about them. I mean, with any luck, it's our family, of course, not all of us. Looking at me, had the family support. But that's not a bad thing. It's like someone said, 3 of my friends, I think it was Don said, 3 of my friends bought my work. It was just my friends. They never curse your blessings. Who are they? They didn't just buy it because of you, because they liked your work too. So who are these people? And And think about, how do you know them? You know, did you meet them online? Are they social media followers? Is it in person? Are they art collectors, or are they what I call civilians, you know, just normal people? So anything that you can think of about these people, jot those things down. And I'm going to give you an example while you're writing. So I worked with an artist one-on-one recently, and his career had been going really well. And then he'd been in a motorcycle accident, and it took him a long time to recover. And just as he recovered and wanted to get back out into the world, COVID hit. So like he was feeling like was just losing so much time. I think we can all relate to that frustration. And so he contacted me, and I asked him this question: who supported your work in the past? And we went through his history, and we saw that it was really people who knew him in person. It was really because he has a very charismatic personality. His technique was really cool. He works with smoke and with fire. So seeing it in person was really cool. He had a really great studio. And also the work itself translates better in person. And you know, there's some work that's really, really beautiful, but you just can't quite capture it in a photograph. And it doesn't mean that the work is less valuable, but it's more difficult to connect with people online about your work. If you're working like sometimes watercolors, or I work with a lot of artists for some reason who work in embroidery, and that's really difficult to capture in a photograph too. So when we looked at this guy's past and we saw that it was in person, and we happened to be in a pandemic where he couldn't meet people in person, we went in and we looked at his social media again. We decided that he could bring a lot more of himself to his social media presence, and also be making videos about his technique, showing his technique more and talking more about his technique. So then when people are looking at pictures of the images, they've got a fuller idea of who he is, of what the work is about, what the work looks like, where it comes from, the space where it was made, all of that. And he started to see some real traction and engagement. And we also set him up for when the pandemic is over to get him back out there doing the in-person things again, because that's really going to be his strength. Does that make sense? So I'm curious, do any one of you want to tell me how you answered that question? Who supported your work in the past? You can unmute yourself, I think. Go on, Colleen.
It's mostly been friends and family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the youngest of 8 kids. So my 3 eldest sisters have always collected my work from day one and hung it. And I'll go to their house and go, oh my God, you still have that. More recently, all my closest friends, I have 4, I would say, 3 maybe. And they've all purchased something. People on Instagram most recently. And my
Good.
husband is a huge supporter and really enjoys the whole making art, seeing it made, enjoying it, spending time with it over a glass of wine. Like, he really enjoys that aspect of it.
That's wonderful.
Beyond that, I would say some people I met at an art club not too long ago. A few other people, but it's not a big crowd.
Okay, but it seems to be mostly in-person stuff right now.
Yes.
Are they art collectors? Are they collecting other works?
I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say no to that.
Okay, good to know. That's good to know. So here's another question for you all. Look at your art and ask yourself, what kind of person are you making your art for? And again, the answer is not everybody. And it's also not rich people. I hear that a lot. That answer always makes me laugh, because that's a really big, vague thing too. So if you're stuck on that, I'm going to give you another example. for many years, I worked with an artist named Enrique Shigoya. And Enrique makes politically charged images about the changing and challenging nature of culture. So this is very highly political work, right? I worked with Enrique for years. Now, do you think that we showed his work to interior designers? No, it's not for them. We focused on museum collections because museums were really into political work, especially by Hispanic collectors at this time. I was really pushing that. And we also went after, but we approached people who supported museums, people who were on the board of museums, people who were part of the collectors groups, people who went to those dinners for museums, because they tended to be more interested in work that had more of an edge to it, like this, or a political vibe to it. And we also targeted Hispanic collectors because they're not afraid of political work. A lot of Hispanic work is very political. And they weren't afraid of that. And so these are niche audiences that I'm talking about. These aren't huge audiences like everybody or rich people. They're much smaller audiences, but we sold out almost everything he made. So look at your work. Think about what kind of person you're making your work for. And do any of you want to share how you answered that question? Do you know? Okay, go on, Theresa.
Yeah. So for the first question, I've been hiding as an artist.
Okay.
I've been working as a designer and an art director, but I studied fashion illustration way back when, and then that industry went away soon after I graduated due to a recession. So I'm from New York, garment industry, all that. So I went into design, which I went to art school. I went to the High School of Art and Design and the Fashion Institute of Technology. And I'm an avid learner. So I'm studying, I know all this software, I know all sorts of stuff, but it's not my love. Right. So after 9/11, 4 years later, after I worked right down there, I moved to the Chicagoland area with my husband. An adventure. Woo! No magazines here. So my work was left behind, which was fine. I've still worked as a designer to this day. Very long story short, too late, but I have not shared my unique art, but I make it for women. I have a past that, was very trying as a woman. Don't we all, but especially trying. So I make it for women, and I want to inspire them to really take a look inside and just stop and see their beauty and see their soul. Take a moment and be there. And it's a lot for me to put myself out there right now. But I do have a history of people using my work for their company, whatever that company was, or their magazine, or, I handled the whole deal, the whole ball of wax. I came up with the campaigns or did monthly magazines myself. So
fantastic.
I know all of that, and I love all of that. But when it comes to putting my work out there, it's a threshold that I really need to be like pushed over right now.
Right. Yeah. Maybe not pushed. Maybe you need to choose to take that step. It sounds like it's a step. And it sounds like your art, I'm just from the one piece I see behind you, which I love, that's what it's about too.
What do you mean?
Right? That your work, you want, your work is to get women to look within, but it's also for you to do that.
Yes. As Parisa has said, I am my ideal. Yeah.
but that's not where you want to stay. You want to find more like you. Yeah.
Right.
You want to
Right.
find more like you.
Mhm.
Great. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you for listening.
Well, here's my next question. What kind of people do you have the best conversations with? And what kind of conversations? Like, what are some of the things that you could talk about all day long? And I'm going to illustrate how that would work with your art by talking about an artist I represented named Kate Brakey. And Kate Brakey, she did these beautiful large format black and white photographs of dead birds. And then she hand painted color onto them. And they were gorgeous. And I did a gallery show one year for her, and I decided to invite the Audubon Society, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the protection of birds. So these are bird lovers, right? That makes sense. I told the Audubon Society that if they invited their mailing list to this event, that they would have a fabulous evening, and I would give 10% of every sale to the Audubon Society. And I'm of the belief that you're never giving anything when you do something like that. You're getting, right? This is an audience I wouldn't have had in my gallery unless I gave the 10%. And I'm just going on this little tangent because a lot of people say, well, I don't want a gallery because I don't want to give them 40%, 50%. You're not giving them, you're getting clients you wouldn't normally have. So with the Audubon Society, I gave them 10%. And they, of course, told their members who wanted to have art and they wanted to support the Audubon Society. So it was really a win-win. The other thing I did is Kate Brakey is Australian. So I knew that I would have a gallery full of people. It was going to be a very, very special evening because it was a fundraiser. And so I invited a wine distributor who dealt in Australian wines. And he came, and I didn't have to pay for wine that night, even though I had, so many people there. It was kind of like the loaves and the fishes by inviting a wine distributor and telling him, that we made a deal with the Audubon Society with him and the wine too. And he did tastings. And I mean, he was just selling cases of wine. People were buying cases of wine. They were buying art. It was Australian. So that was like on theme. And I didn't have to pay for the wine. I didn't serve the swill, the $2 chuck that I normally did. It was up a notch, and it was really a fabulous evening and really successful. And Theresa, when I think about what you're talking about, I wonder if you would be interested in being involved with like organizations that help women, and doing fundraisers with them and using your work maybe in shelters,
That's
can you speak of your
precisely,
work?
sorry.
Yeah, no,
That's
go for it.
precisely the line of thinking I'm going on. Freshly though, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could be doing, and I should, yeah. And so all these things, but that's perfect. Yeah. To help women would feed my soul, and
Right.
it would be really important to me. Yeah. Yeah.
I worked with a photographer who had diabetes, and he did a whole series on photograph. He's a beautiful portraitist, but was having a hard time making a living. He contacted the diabetes charity in the UK where he lives, and it ended up being like a 2-year program. He did books for them. He did traveling exhibitions, taking portraits of people around the UK who have diabetes, and they would write stories to go with it. So he really built his career around that because he had diabetes and thought, well, I'll try this. And those little connections, these are the kind of conversations, these are the kinds of people that he was talking to anyway.
Yeah.
So any questions about that, or any other comments about that? Does it make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Good. Okay, so here's the next question. When people get your work, when they say, oh my God, that is so cool, what are they responding to? Are they complimenting your technique? Do they really like your colors? Is it your subject matter? Is it the gestures or the lines? What is it that they really like when they compliment your work? I think these little comments of people are like, oh, I really like that, you know, or you've got a gallery show and someone says, oh, I really like that. And we tend to just say thank you, which is the wrong response. Don't stop at thank you. Ask them more, find out what it is they are responding about, and ask them about themselves, because you want to find more people like that. You want to find more people who really like your work. When I teach artists how to show and sell more art, I always stress that the secret to success in the art business is relationships. And relationships are not formed by artists being silent and withdrawn and expecting the work to speak for itself, which I hear all the time. I want the work to speak for itself. Well, it doesn't. It's paint on canvas. It doesn't talk. You know, you have to help. You have to be part of that. I remember one time I had a new collector, a woman who was really excited about collecting, but nervous. She didn't have an art background. She had a little bit of money and she had some walls and she was excited about it. And I introduced her to one of my artists and she asked him, tell me about your work. And he said, well, I used to work in oil, but now I work in acrylic. And that was it. That was all he said. And she was embarrassed. She was angry. She felt stupid because she probably didn't even understand the difference. Do you know what I mean? I was furious because he just lost a sale right there. She was ready to, all he had to do was tell her his story and engage with her, and he didn't. So I think the more we can build on those relationships, the better. Now, the opposite is the artists who don't stop talking about themselves. And that's really also, that kills a lot of sales because it's boring. Nobody, not, you know, we've all been on dates. You know, we all know what it's like to be talked at. Do you know what I mean? It's boring and it doesn't go anywhere. And it's just not that interesting. And yes, people buy art because they're interested in artists and they're interested in their lives and they're interested in the work and they want to know the story behind it. But they're people too. And the more you can shine the light back on them and make them feel seen and heard, which is what we all want in life, the better you make them feel and the more they start to connect with you as real people, as a genuine relationship. So share yourself, share the story of your work, ask questions, pay attention to the answers, because I found that by asking questions of potential clients, people who say, oh, that's really cool. Oh, I like that. Not only do we make them feel good, but we start to gather important information that we can use in our marketing, because these people are walking, talking, real life market research. So that's an opportunity. Every time someone compliments your work, that's an opportunity. Now, I'm going to use myself as an example in a blatant piece of self-promotion. I founded an online business program for artists called the Working Artist Masterclass. It's an 8-week program that takes artists step by step through building a financially sustainable art practice that they love, right? Now, I've always promoted the working artist through social media. I write short stories and essays about working as an artist myself. I write about what I learned when I was an art dealer. And I write about other artists I meet and the challenges that they have, or, you know, the success that they have. If I had just posted, this is when my next class starts and this is how much it costs, do you think anyone would have ever come? I mean, I started teaching in person, so I wouldn't have gotten anyone through the door if I had just done that. I had to engage people first. You have to show them who you are. Like Theresa, when you got on this call first, you said, oh, I've been reading about your life, you know, so you already know me a little bit. And that's how artists engage with their audience too. Too many times, pretty much every time I get on social media, I see artists post their image with a title, if I'm lucky, and a price. Sometimes it's just the work, it's like, okay, I'm scrolling with my thumb. Am I really supposed to stop and engage with that? That's not enough. You need to engage with your audience. You need to teach your audience how to see your work. So that's a better sales strategy. That's how you build relationships. I'm going back to me again as example. I don't sell. I share. And if you think about it, I'm sharing right now, right? And I'm hoping that because I'm sharing with you, you're going to feel like you know me, you're going to understand who I am, and you're going to check out my website at theworkingartist.com. And if it's a good fit, I'm hoping that you're going to join my mailing list, or maybe even consider taking the class, because I'm going to give you guys a coupon code for 50% off that lasts through this weekend. And that code is Parisa, of course. So you're welcome to use that at theworkingartist.com. But do you see how that just worked? The stuff that I'm sharing is of interest and of value to my audience, contemporary visual artists who are ready for the next step. And this is how you can build an audience for your work too, having exchanges and giving value to an interested audience. So I'm going to give you an example about how that would work with a visual artist. I worked with a digital artist who he created landscape images, seascapes, and film stills, like from famous movies like Humphrey Bogart and stuff like that. And on social media, he was doing what everyone else was doing. He was posting an image with the size and the price, and nobody cared, right? It's just more noise on the internet. So he engaged me to help him, and he was like, I think I've got a great idea. What do you think about this? What if I target landscape enthusiasts, and I'll target seascape collectors, and I'll target film buffs? I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. No one's going to understand that. It's just going to be a mishmash of everything. So I told him that he needs to find his golden thread. And his golden thread, as far as I could see, was that he worked digitally instead of traditionally. He was creating all of his work on an iPad, not with paint on canvas. And I think he was afraid that that was going to be a weakness, but I'm a big believer in turning weaknesses into strengths, right? It made him different. So let's just put it out there. Let's put it front and forward. Let's post about that. Let's post about the digital aspect of this work. It would, number one, help him build a relationship of trust with his audience when he did sell something, because I don't want him to be selling every single time he posts. I want him to be posting about digital art. So when he does post something that's for sale, people are educated about how to look at it. So they understand where the value is in that. People who were already interested in digital art would naturally be drawn to him. And I also encouraged him to find other digital artists and promote their work in his social media, because that would make him a leader in the field of digital art. And it worked. Within a month, he'd been asked to show in a museum show on digital art. So it was a huge win, and his career started to go much better in that direction. And he felt much stronger about what he was posting. And he wasn't just another artist making noise on the internet. Now he was a leader in digital art. And because he had to go out there and find content all the time to share, he was learning more and more about the vocabulary, about the landscape of digital art, about the techniques. So he was becoming a better artist. Does that make sense? It's empowering when you look at it that way. So what's your golden thread? And I want each of you to unmute yourself and answer that if you can. Do you know what your golden thread is? I'll make Parisa start.
Ooh, I was hoping you wouldn't do that. I don't even know where to start, because I've been thinking about this and I keep going back to this whole subject every once in a while. So my stuff, one of them is in the background, is very abstract. It's either very colorful or there's like a dominant color, like the green in this one, and has some purple. I'm not sure it's
It's
visible.
beautiful.
But usually the people that buy from me, and when I ask them and get their feedback and reviews or whatnot, it's usually around decor. It's usually around, it goes well within. So it's around decor and interior design. And now that I like, when you were talking, I think like, and who I was building this for is like, because I do a lot of I really love interior design. I look at a lot of like on Pinterest. I always follow like boards where like I get inspiration and what can I do with this corner. So I think like on some level I was always doing that. I just it didn't surface itself for like I wasn't intentional of that for the longest time. And when people compliment it, usually the colors and the textures. So like I use a palette knife, so there's a lot of like texture on my work. So it's one of those things. But the golden thread, I don't know. I would say again, like color and texture, I have no idea beyond that. You can help, that would be great.
I do. I can. The texture is kind of hard when we're talking about social media. If you're going to do an in-person event, that's different. But if we're for the texture, you could. Okay, no, I'm going to just pick one thread. The golden thread is probably the colors and your interest in interior design. So you can certainly like be taking the things that you're learning on Pinterest, and you can make a collage of the boards that you can be teaching people about interior design, about color, about theory, and then you can use your own work as an example.
Yeah. I think I've been doing a little bit of that, but the more I'm understanding that's the thing, I'm trying to double down on it further. Like on my website, I even meant like I recently updated some of the text on my website. Now I'm talking very directly to the interior design enthusiast.
Yes.
And for that reason, I found that my prints sell better because a person who's just looking for a decor, a print is enough for them. So yeah, I'm trying to like kind of build on that as I go. And the textures, I'm trying to like take different angles so that the texture is very visible, knowing that this piece has a lot of like strokes that.
Yeah, but you don't get the texture in the prints.
The quality of the prints are so good. Like I'm working with a print shop. Yeah, I'm working with a print shop that like another compliment I receive, actually, it's funny, is that like the prints are so high quality. I feel I can touch the texture.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm also mentioning that all over my website.
That's great.
Yeah, so
that's wonderful.
Thank
you. Thanks for sharing. That's a good thread. That's a really good thread. And that gives you somewhere to build. And, with the prints, I know prints sell for a lot less than the paintings, but, you can be working with high-end designers, but there's also designers who go into hotels, and those are great kinds of gigs to get.
Yeah. And also I feel, at least in Toronto right now, and my generation, we want pretty places, but we can't afford the high-end price of a lot of these decor pieces. So I'm finding that there's a market within that itself, where people, you can buy pieces that will still give you the pretty look that you're going for, but doesn't cost a fortune, because it's just like a matter of like the place they are. Hopefully as we move up the ladder in our careers, like we can.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I'm gonna allow someone else to talk.
Who wants to go next? Okay, go on, Theresa.
I was gonna let it be open to someone who hasn't spoken yet, but so my golden thread is definitely women and helping them get in touch with the moment, each moment. But you asked about this piece. I work in digital collage a lot, and watercolor. It's all women. But my digital collage is really kind of so important to me. So what I do is I do analog pieces. I draw or paint, and then bring them in and merge them with my photography, which I'm an avid photographer. So I merge them with my photography and then work digitally to create a moment
Mhm.
in time. So my golden thread, I don't know if it's just women or inspiring women, but what I've heard about my work is the intuitive nature and the spiritual nature that affects people.
Ah, so maybe it's the divine feminine?
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm writing
Yeah.
that down.
Yeah, because that gives you a whole language and a rich mythology
Hmm.
to bring forward.
That's funny you should mention that mythology because my website is Nine Modern Muses,
Oh,
and it's the modern version of the mythological nine muses, daughters of Zeus and
yeah.
Mnemosyne. So yeah, but I don't name them. I don't create, specific
Right.
around the nine. It's just they're modern. They're today. They're
Uh-huh.
this is
Uh-huh.
in the now. So yeah, I
So
speak.
wonderful. So you've got your golden thread. That's lovely. It's
Yeah.
empowering. I feel like the modern mythology empowers women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the divine feminine. That's beautiful.
Sure, sure.
I'm changing celebrating women to the divine
Divine
feminine.
feminine.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else want to share theirs?
Pam, you need to go next. Yeah.
Go on.
Drew is Pam.
Hi.
Hi, Drew.
Yes, I'm Pam.
Oh, Pam.
Um,
Drew is Pam. That's why it's okay. Sorry.
it's nice to meet you, Krista.
You too. Pam.
I think mine is a little harder. Like it
Okay.
doesn't seem very obvious, or like to make it to monetize mine. I don't know. My deepest interests are like ecology and conservation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also love women, so that's there, and the spirituality. But women aren't showing up in my artwork right now.
Okay.
It's all about life forms. Like right now, I do a lot of fish. I do probably too much fish, but I'm also in love with birds. So the Audubon Society thing was like pricked my ears up.
Uh-huh.
Somebody suggested, my boyfriend it was, that since I'm good at fish and I like doing fish, get known for doing fish. So I just like kept doing fish, but I'm actually super in love with to have this huge overtone.
You cut out a lot there. Is she cutting out for everyone else too?
People not using too many paper. Sorry?
Oh, sorry, you're cutting out a lot. So I'm just catching bits and
Oh,
pieces
sorry.
about fish.
What did,
But so let's
fish
go
are
back
like
a little
the
bit.
overtone of all my artwork.
Okay, okay. And are you comfortable with that, with staying there?
Well, I am, no. Yes.
Yes.
Like I feel like it's endless.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable just staying with it because I also am, like I was saying, he's like super in love with birds and
Right.
uh, insects. I
Oh,
was
cool.
very interested in what you were telling me about the Audubon Society thing, but conservation is a big thing for me. I deeply care about forests and ecology, ecosystems, and the little things that are hidden that live within them that are so affected by us and our nasty footprints.
Yes.
So
Well,
that's
the Kate Breakey body of work was called Small Deaths, because she was interested in these small things that die, that we pass every day, that we don't see. And yours isn't about the death, but it's about these little things. And you talked about women, and my first thought as you started describing your work was Gaia, who's the earth goddess, right? So that kind of encompasses all of what you're doing, and you're working with water you're working with sky, and you're working with land. And conservation is that's kind of the golden thread right there. I mean, you've got the whole palette right there. And then conservation is a great way to find your audience. Does that make sense to you?
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I've been approached by my niece, who is a healer, a spiritual healer, and that is her business. But she's amazing and so true and real. She's approached me for 2 collaborations. One is to do tarot cards, watercolor tarot cards, and the other one is to paint a background for her that would be like the back image that you would see as she's doing this new program, which is teaching people to integrate body and earth. So that's swimming around in my brain like crazy. So
no pun intended. Is that your piece behind you, Pam?
Yeah.
That's stunning. It's just stunning. And it's so it's got so luminous.
That was such an inspiration. And it's unfinished. My boyfriend said this has to go on the wall. It can't be sitting on the ground. Stick it up there. And we have the space for it. So thank you. I'm inspired by color and light and like movement and shape. So my work, I try to have that reflect in my work. Some of my pieces do and some don't. Working big like this, like I really want to go back to. Like I've stuck with these little watercolor cards forever. But I'm inspired to work larger like that. And it's just the thing is you don't have room. Like who has room for all this stuff? And so
you need to sell it. I think, I've been playing with tarot cards now for the last year. That's was my pandemic hobby. It was cheap. I didn't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But the mythology behind it, the stories behind it are so rich, and the imagery. And then if you brought in, these different elements that you're interested in, and you could have the originals, big, and by making a tarot deck out of them, I imagine, like for me, for example, there are certain cards that just speak to me. And if there was a beautiful image, I would totally buy that piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be a talisman of something else. So those projects sound really interesting to me. And I think you do have your golden thread.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality and conservation.
Yeah, I think conservation is the audience. I think Gaia as the earth goddess encompasses the spirituality plus the sea, the sky, and the earth. And there's something about water too. I just today watched a YouTube video. It was a Native American woman talking about water and their belief that water actually has consciousness. And so they pray to water every time they drink water, or when they take a shower, they thank water. And I just love that so much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So Gaia is a consciousness and it encompasses all of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does it feel good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, I guess I may struggle with what everyone else is struggling now with as an artist. And now that we've all started our website, so much time being put into getting things printable files. And I have so much art, like my list is growing like crazy of things I want to add to my website, like pieces. It's kind of driving me crazy because I haven't painted in weeks, it feels like.
It's necessary. So sometimes we have to take care of the business stuff. And I always say about websites, well, I'm sure Parisa gives you great advice, but it's not a museum to you. Think of it as a portfolio. So you don't have to put everything you've ever done on there. Do you agree, Parisa? Are you of the same?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Not everything. But we do we did an e-commerce website though, Krista. So it's kind of like they can buy on there. So it's really anything you want to sell.
Right. Great.
Yeah, and it's so important that this is happening. And you're right, it's just something that has to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Just like my inspirations are growing daily.
Well, it's so great to hear you talk about your work like this, because where you're sitting, you have this plant behind you that has like you are Gaia right there. It's your halo, it's your crown, it's nature. It's beautiful. It just ties in with everything you're saying.
Cool. Thank you. That's cool.
Well planned, Pam. Well planned. Sitting in front of the plant. I'm going to get a plant like that. Oh, well, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing. Colleen, did you want to share? Or are you feeling shy? Unmute yourself, though.
Yeah. Okay. So I've painted forever. I used to be an art teacher. I've retired.
Fantastic.
Was really anxious because I know for a fact now that art is sharing your art, and I wasn't comfortable about my art. I'm only uncomfortable about my art when I'm not making it, and I'm only uncomfortable about sharing my art when I'm not sharing it. As soon as I'm sharing it, it's like it's the not doing that is the problem. So
Interesting.
this is a big, huge, exciting, yeah, just so fun. It's just
Great.
so fun. So currently, because I moved to Georgian Bay, are you Canadian?
Me? No.
Okay. Georgian Bay is like iconic Canadian landscape.
Uh-huh.
So during the pandemic, I started doing the view out the window.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, then this was the neighbor's hockey rink. So like this is constant, this contour line and everything. So what I've been capturing or been trying to capture is that moment of sunrise, because then you can play with color. Like this one was my first one, and it's very cold, and I like it, but because it doesn't have those pinks, those muted colors, it's not as warm. And then the other thing I started playing with was these, you can't see it, it's too dark. Oh,
It's a little.
I'm so sad you can't see it.
Yeah, me too.
Ah,
That's better. That's better. Yeah, yeah. Oh, nice. Okay.
Okay, so they're furniture.
Oh, yeah.
So what I did was
Textile?
I saw some art that had some Japanese paper in it. So I
Mhm.
bought the Japanese paper, not knowing what I was going to do. And then I have a thing for furniture. I have I have a thing for furniture. And I thought, oh, I'll just do a silhouette. It's like one of those ideas pops into your head. And so I've done about maybe 13 or 14 of them. So they're very disparate, but at the same time, they were my experience during COVID or just living here in general, because I live in a condo. I look out over this ridiculously beautiful view, and then I'm inside almost becoming a hermit because lockdown has been up until practically today in Toronto, Ontario. So on the surface, they look like very different things, but in my experience of making them, there is a golden thread, and the golden thread is sort of like the contemplative aspect of, obviously the space and the landscape, and the contemplative space of being alone during lockdown, and not being able to gather and have people in your space. So the furniture portraits are always empty. At first, I felt that they were like the absence of people, but that's not how people responded to them, which kind of threw me off, because I was kind of thinking it was like I had the idea. But anyway, and then I actually realized, I haven't shared this with anyone really at all, except maybe my close friend. it occurred to me that it was really about my mother. So it operates on so many different levels for me. Like I can write, and I could write about the colonialism in the pattern, or the colonialism in the shape of the chair. There's like a million things I could thematically I could explore. But the quietude, the contemplative, yeah, those are the big words that I would say are present.
Could I take a pass at it?
I would love it.
Okay. Because I've worked with a lot of art teachers. I love working with art teachers. And just from seeing the two pieces and hearing you talk about it and about the stillness and about the looking, do you think that your work and your golden thread could be teaching people how to look, how to see?
Mhm. I'm actually doing that when I post on Instagram. I do write a lot. I don't know how many people read it. It is irrelevant to me. I don't care. I like to write. So
Yeah, me too. I'm the same. Yeah.
yeah. And often it's sort of analyzing the meaning or observing, like when you make something, you look at it and go, oh, I didn't see that. I didn't know I was making that. It you without you knowing, and then you reflect on it. So I write about my reflection of the experience, what it looks like to me. I can easily talk about composition and design and technique, all that stuff I have access to quite easily.
Right.
So
I love that, because you can think of your posts, or when you go out into the world, if you give talks or, do a gallery tour, anything, as teaching people how to see in small bite-size portions, because people can't look at a social media post and get a whole lesson, but they can, like you would give to a regular class, but they could give a portion of a lesson, and how to communicate, and how to teach people how to see. So using your posts and using your work to engage with people that way, I think that's really beautiful. I think they can be really powerful.
I had one person say, you are teaching me how to look at art. And in the winter, I read a book. I can't remember the title of it, but the author was teaching like laymen how to look at art. So it was really interesting to me as an artist reading something for a layman.
Right.
It actually really helped me kind of
it wasn't written in the 60s or 70s, was it? Was it Ways of Seeing by John Berger?
What's the name?
Ways of Seeing?
It's not Ways of Seeing. No.
Okay.
I'll share it with Parisa. I'll dig it out and I'll share it with Parisa.
Okay, cool. That's great. So everyone has a golden thread, I think. And if we don't have it sounds like you guys all have your golden threads. When we don't, I think we can really confuse our audience. When we just want to play. There's nothing wrong with play. But if we want to sell our work, we have to be able to talk about it and teach people how to look at it. So consider your golden thread when you do your social media, when you're writing your artist statements, when you title your work, when you're wondering what to do next. Think about this golden thread, and ask yourself also, is you're all building websites, so you're probably all interested in social media. How can you promote your work on social media more creatively with the golden thread in mind? How can you post more generously with your golden thread in mind? How can you nurture the relationships that you're building? And how can you use your voice to share your message about your work? And I think if you'll go back to the questions I asked you, you start by considering what your work is about, You consider the audience who you want to serve with your work. Consider those things that you can talk about all day long, and consider what it is that people respond to most in your work. And then bring these things to your website, to your artist statements, to your social media presence, to your kits, your promotional kits. And I think your golden threads will actually go out into the world and find your audience for you, and make it so much easier for you to show and sell your work.
Isn't she amazing, ladies?
Thanks.
This has been so insightful. I've learned so much, and I'm just listening to you, and it gave me shivers at times. Like when you were talking about Colleen's work, it just brought up like Colleen's manifesto that she had written on her second week, I think, and it's tying everything that we've been doing together. So even as an outsider, I can see how the puzzle pieces are coming together, and that's just an outsider. I can't start to imagine like what you guys are feeling inside as like everything is starting to just accumulate, and it's a work of art. It's like everything is coming together to form this work of art that is going to be hopefully an art career for us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, bravo, everybody. And bravo this is the last week of the class, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So good for you for being finishers. And I wish you all lots of luck. And if you have any questions, just shoot me an email, okay?
Yeah, make sure you check Krista's website, follow her on Instagram. She shares short stories of her life and friends. They're just so wonderful. Sometimes they make me laugh. Other times I just
want to be in France.
Yeah, sometimes I feel jealous, especially that I haven't been able to travel for a while.
Thanks, Parisa, for inviting me. Thanks for welcoming me.
Really fun. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for putting in the
For
time.
setting this up.
It's
Yeah,
great
no
to meet
worries.
all of you.
Likewise.
Definitely want to check out your class.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Parisa is the coupon code. Of course. She's got it on her t-shirt.
But that's for this weekend, though? That's for this weekend?
Yeah.
So do you have to start right away? Because I'm Monday.
It's on demand. So I'd send out emails every week, kind of like keeping you going, but you can just tuck them away. There's no expiration date. So I'm allergic to overwhelm. I don't like deadlines. So I didn't give the whole class all at once, so I did space it out because again, I don't want to be overwhelmed, but at the same time, I don't like to be rushed. So you've got it forever once you've got it. And also once you sign up and I have monthly coaching calls where I meet with anyone who's ever taken the class, and you can continue to join those coaching calls even after the course ends. And there's no extra fee for that. So you always have support. Thanks so much, Parisa, for
Thank you so much for joining us today and accepting the offer. So it's been wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
So grateful. Yeah.
Bye-bye. Good luck to you all.
Bye.
Thanks, you too.